Yeah, yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, all participants. If you have been admitted to the sessions, and those who are in waiting, you will be admitted by Mr. Balaji as soon as possible, whenever he gets notified. So, this whole session is about approaching internal assessments in the diploma program. The subject here is sports exercise and health science. See, if you're new to IB, observe the session. You may have tons of queries which may get sorted without asking. And if then also you have any query, please do ask. Feel free to ask questions. We will stop the session from time to time. Stop in the sense we will give you question answer time from criteria to criteria. So in between session also we'll have question answer sessions. So just be sure of that. Please note down your queries and do let us know within time. For educators who are already facilitating sports science or MYPPHE or PYPPHE, please note down your queries, and we are really looking forward for your collaboration and you to take forward the subject in your schools. So please come up with as much as possible. Whatever queries you have, please do ask us. So let's start it. My name is Karan, Karan Bahadur Singh. I'm working in a school in Khandala and I teach sports exercise and health science. I'm also teaching psychology and I'm lucky enough to be part of the TUK team of my school. And I'm organizing this session because I want this subject, sports exercise and health science, to flourish as much as possible in IB program because I believe that this is the least I can do for the subject, which is basically giving me everything. So that's my introduction in brief. Now, what should be our approach? This is a very fundamental thing. The theme of the session is that approaching internal assessment. Now, I want you all to understand that our approach is different here, basically, in comparison to any other curriculum. For a grade 11th and 12th student, which we call DP1 and DP2 here in IB, here in diploma program, the candidate is supposed to be the sports scientist. He's not the athlete. Whereas in other curriculums across the globe, you will find that a student who has opted for physical education during 11th and 12th is supposed to be a little bit, not if 100%, a bit of athlete as well, so that he could improve on his athletic performance or maybe you know uh, anything out of his performance. But here it is completely scientific approach. So the student here is sports scientist. His perspective, I believe that I'm making it clear that his perspective is scientific here. He's the scientist. He'll be looking at athletes from scientific perspective. He is not supposed to do any activity. He is not supposed to do any activity at all throughout the curriculum. And this is what makes sports science much wonderful because here in diploma program, it is considered as a science subject of science, which is, I think, the only curriculum across the globe which approves physical education or form of physical education as science in school education. So this is all about how we should be looking at this whole session, that the student who is conducting this internal assessment is a scientist. Now, what is IEA? IEA basically stands for internal assessment. We have a website. Those who don't know, please take a note of ibo.org. This is website. This is the curriculum we teach, we all facilitate. And internal assessment is an component. I'll take you to the document.
Hello, Mr. Karan.
Sharing my screen, please bear with me. From the IB guide, you have to just Google sports exercise and health science DP guide. You will get the whole document of 140 pages. This is one part of it, internal assessment. So this is how
Participants, I request you all to mute. Mr. Karan.
am audible, Mr. Balaji?
Yeah. Your connectivity is a little bit low.
Hello?
You can go ahead, sir.
Oh God, I'm really very sorry, everyone. Please bear with me because of this problem of connectivity. What is the screen? Sir, can you please confirm what is visible on the screen?
Yeah. The PPT is visible, sir.
Fine. Sorry everyone for this problem. It is supposed to be in form of report written by the candidate. Hello.
Yes.
So when you will log into my IB and download the whole guidebook, you will get to see what is internal assessment guidelines given by IB. So we were last here. It is in the guide here. What are the safety requirements for the lab expectations, standard lab guidelines, how is it supposed to be conducted, introduction of the experiment, internal assessment. This is the criteria which will be so I'm fixing it, please. were discussing how what is internal assessment, and I was saying that we need to go to the subject guide, and there is a section altogether separately for internal assessment. Moving on from there, I want you to explain what internal assessment is actually. It is a partnership between the student, teacher, facilitator, and the examiner, basically, because examiner will be marking it, student is the person who is conducting it, and facilitator or the teacher is the person who will be supervising. Now, there is one thing which I want all of us to understand, that when we are telling students, when we are educating students about the internal assessment, we also have to tell them from very beginning that they should check feasibility. Feasibility in sense of that they are not supposed to, and they are not expected to do any invention altogether. Okay, these are young minds and they are restless, so they don't understand that there is a limitation in terms of curriculum. So they don't have to reinvent anything. They just have to conduct a simple study which is feasible. They should take a simple topic. And another thing which we need to tell them is that process is more important than the outcome. So this is how it should be approached from here onwards. Now, internal assessments. Internal assessments are conducted on core topics of the syllabus. I'll take a second and take you to the screen and show you the syllabus outline. So this is the syllabus outline. See, there are 6 core topics, there are additional higher level topics, and there are options. So topic 1 to 6 are core topics within which a candidate should be pointing out a research question. And to few facilitators, I would like to tell that please start teaching unit 6 first, because that creates ground for the internal assessment. Where you have to teach students measurement and evaluation and research methods. So if a candidate is very much aware of measurement, evaluation, and research methods, he or she will be able to figure out IA related topics from these topics. For example, chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the beginning, it is always advised that please start teaching from unit 6, so the candidate understands fundamentals of measurement, evaluation, and research methods. And there is also a little bit of statistics in it. So the candidate is very much aware of the research methodology and should be able to figure out topics, respective topics for internal assessment in coming future. Moving on from here, I'll take you again to the PowerPoint. These are our 6 topics, as I was mentioning, which I've already shared with you. Now we will start directly with the criterias. These are IA criterions. First one is exploration, analysis, evaluation, communication, and personal engagement. So I'll be taking you all through these topics one by one. And after finishing every criteria, for example, after finishing exploration, I will pause for a minute and for some time, and you can ask your questions, and then I'll be responding to these questions. Then we will move on to next criteria. So this is how we have planned it. Now, talking of exploration, exploration has 4 aspects. First aspect is research question. The candidate is supposed to have a research question to be addressed. So the whole internal assessment is designed around a research question. I'll show you an example of an IA here. See, for example, in this IA, you can see that there's a research question which is mentioned by the candidate. Now, the research question is expected to have certain qualities. It cannot be a general first order question. The research question is supposed to communicate the independent variable, dependent variable, measurement units, measurement errors of these independent and dependent variables. If the question is supposed to be in that way. And if a question is normal questionnaire based, if the study is normal questionnaire based study, then a candidate can have a very simple correlation based question, which is like, is there any correlation between these 2 variables or not? So that is fine. But when we talk of variables, we should also educate our candidates that they should write variables along with their measurement units and their measurement errors. I'll show you another example. Now, in this question, in this research question, you can see that the candidate has written certain things, which is the measuring unit, and errors are not mentioned here. For 100 meters, the candidate has written measurement errors. So this is how a research question should look like. So research question should basically communicate the whole topic. Topic of the investigation should be communicated clearly by the research question. And research question should also be communicating the context of the whole research. Okay, moving on from research question, the next aspect is background information. Background information is supposed to be, I'll show you an example here. Background information is supposed to be the scientific background of variables which are selected by the candidate. Background information should also be communicating the definitions of these different terms. Background information should also be communicating how these variables are contributing to sports or athletes' sports performance. And then background information should also be involving some scientific background. Scientific background in the sense, if someone has already created, see for example, the candidate is coming up with a research question. So the research question, the candidate has not designed the whole question on its own. It has some grounds of scientific research. So candidate is expected to review some related literature and mention that literature here, that on these grounds, this is the background of the investigation, and the whole research question has been developed on basis of these studies. And expectations are that there should be more than one study mentioned in background information. So the background information should be appropriately scientific. It should also be relevant to scientific research conducted by someone else, and it should enhance information about or an understanding about the context of the study. Third aspect is methodology. Methodology is a detailed aspect. In methodology, the candidate is expected, I'll take you to the example again. The candidate is expected to write details of the independent variable, dependent variable, if possible with measurement unit and errors of measurement. And after that, candidate should also be writing about controlled variables, if there are to be any. So if a candidate is controlling any variable, candidate should make the whole list of controlled variables. See the way it is shown here. Control variable, how they can be controlled, and why is it important to be controlled. So this is how candidate is trying to communicate how he or she has identified a list of variables which could cause a disturbance or which could reduce reliability of results, and the way he or she have controlled them. So these are the variables. This is just an example to make you understand that the candidate is also supposed to mention confounding variables. Confounding variables are basically those variables on which the candidate has almost no control. For example, emotional stability of the subject, or illness, or mental state of the subject for that particular time when the data collection was done. So in methodology, this is also expected to be written. The candidate is supposed to write definitions of independent dependent variables, describe them, controlled variable, describe as much as possible the why are they controlled, how were they controlled, confounding variables. And then candidate is also expected to write the method of data collection. I'll show you another example. See, candidate has listed apparatus and candidate has listed the method of data collection here in detail. So for this, student should understand that when they are writing the method of data collection, it should be written in very simple language, and it should be so descriptive and in simple language that a layman who has never been part of sports science or has done any experiment of sports science or physical education should also, if given with all apparatus and methodology, then he or she should be able to execute the whole experiment. So basic point here is that the method of data collection should be written in detail by the subject, by the student, so that examiner understands we are teaching our students unit 6. When we are teaching our students unit 6, we need to see, I was telling in the beginning that we have to teach them measurement and evaluation. So when we teach them measurement and evaluation, there are multiple tests of different abilities of human performance, be it skill related or be it fitness related or health related. So a teacher should do let candidates to or students to execute these tests as much as possible by themselves under their supervision, so they get to know how these tests are conducted. So when they have the first hand experience of doing data collection before the IA is genuinely or originally conducted, they will be able to execute it by themselves under supervision of the teacher. And this is how we should tell them that just write everything which you have done in terms of data collection, starting from the very beginning till end. Every single minute step should be shared. So this till here methodology is the part of the report till here is called methodology, and this should be detailed as much as possible. The next part is safety, ethics, and environmental impact. This is fourth aspect of exploration criteria. Now, when we talk of safety, ethics, and environmental impact, we need to educate our students. Then when they go to data collection, to do data collection, they have to keep few things in mind. One is that if the subject who is taking part in experiment is under 16 years age, the student has to get a parental consent. So there is a parental consent form which is expected to be taken from parents of the sample. When they approve, then only the other student can be part of this experiment. Second thing is the PARQ. PARQ is physical activity readiness questionnaire. If the experiment involves any physical activity, then the candidate should execute PARQ just before the activity to ensure that the sample is ready for physical activity during this experiment. Third thing is safety also should be, the candidate should also keep in mind that if it's a soccer based data collection test or track and field oriented data collection test, so suitable attire has been put on by the sample. Suitable attire means if one has to run on synthetic track for 400 meters test, one should have good spikes which prevent him from any sort of injuries. If there is a data collection based on rugby rugby skills, then candidate should be putting on all type of, the sample should be putting on all type of safety apparatus, and the student who is conducting the internal assessment should be writing all these things in detail under safety and ethical guidelines. Now as far as ethics are concerned, it is about keeping result anonymous. See, if a candidate is giving good results, then nobody minds to be mentioned if names have been mentioned anywhere. But otherwise, if the candidate has not done very well in the experiment and the name comes out, then it doesn't looks, one may not feel very good about it. So ethically, what has to be done is that the candidate has to be mature enough, and he or she should ensure that anonymity of the data has been maintained. Nobody should come to know that whose result or whose score is what out of the whole thing. Moving on to environmental aspects. Now, environmental aspects are basically in an experiment where you are only doing experiment in the lab, where you are some gas is being produced or some waste is being developed. But also in sports science experiment, for example, I like to share here that if there is a candidate who is doing data collection of VO2 max, so in Vernier VO2 max equipment, you will see that there's a cardboard mouthpiece, which is when if a candidate is conducting this experiment, candidate should have surgical gloves, should put on the mouthpiece on the machine, and then the mouthpiece should be entered in the candidate's mouth, the sample's mouth. When the sample is doing 12 minutes workout to test VO2 max, a lot of saliva will be generated within the mouthpiece. Now that mouthpiece has to be disposed properly, and therefore surgical gloves are allowed and required to be used by the candidate who is doing experiment. And this should be put into dustbin properly, and the pair of gloves should also be put then and there, and then hand should be sanitized, another pair of gloves should be put on, and another piece of another mouthpiece should be used for next candidate. So that is the part where a candidate has to think about environmental impact of the experiment. Now, there can be experiments where safety is not an issue. There can be experiments where ethics are not the issue, or there can be experiments where environmental impact is not of much high consideration. But the point is that in the report, candidate is expected to address all these three. Should write that safety has been taken care and should mention how. Then ethics has been taken care, should mention how it has been taken care. And as far as environmental impact are concerned, for example, if there is no environmental hazard to be happen after or because of the experiment, candidate should write that there is no environmental hazard which can happen because of this experiment. It means the candidate is addressing it and candidate knows the criteria. So it should be communicated properly. So this is the exploration criteria, and I think I'll take a pause here. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. And before you people start asking questions, I'm really very sorry about this connectivity issue and things. I'm very sad about that. So please ask your question.
Sir, I have a question. If you could please give me an example of one of the experiment that can be done in the lab with SEHS, because I thought most of the experiments would be on samples which are humans, right? So can you give me an example of what can be done in the lab?
Sure, ma'am. Sure, I will. See, when there are two things which I want to communicate now. When I say lab, in sports science, lab includes the outside field as well. If we have portable equipments, we can take them to the field. And if we are conducting in an indoor lab, which is basically in schools, what happens is that we don't have specific, very well decorated sports exercise and health science lab. We have biology lab, we have physics lab, and we have our chemistry lab. Now, if a student is trying to explore differences between fast twitch fiber and slow twitch fiber, may explore red meat and white meat. That can be done with help of collaboration of a biology teacher in lab. Moving on from there, if a student wants to execute data collection of force plate, or maybe grip strength, so the grip sensor is basically kept in physics lab. So that is something which a candidate, the sample can come to the lab and data collection can be done there. We do not promote any experiments which are microscopic in nature in sports science. It is human testing, and when I say that it is conducted in lab, I mean that it is a gymnasium. It's a gym where we have cross trainer, we have a treadmill, we have a bicycle to collect endurance based data. And if the sensors are very good and portable, then we can take athletes out to the ground, and if they are remote sensing, then very well data can be collected. Ma'am, have I made it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And is there a particular format for the lab report for SEHS?
Yes, it is.
Could you be able to share it with us later once the session is over? The format of the lab report?
Perfect, ma'am. I will.
Yeah, thank you.
I will share detail with everyone. For your reference, the examples which I'm showing right now are lab reports done by students in past.
Okay.
Okay, so
this is how it is,
but, and I'll be.
Yes, Karan sir, there is a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a list of ethics, safety, and environment consideration? And Mr. Sagar Deb is meaning that a guide so that we don't miss anything. Do we have anything like that?
We can develop it collaboratively as far as possible for future, but for now what I'm saying is that it is very customized. It depends on what experiment is being conducted. So things will vary from experiment to experiment. As I was saying that in most of the experiments there is no environmental impact. If we are collecting 100 meters sprint data, there's no environmental impact. Are you getting the point? So the problem here is that for now there is no such document created. We can collaborate and create in future, but this will vary from experiment to experiment.
Sir, I have a question. So it's like, yes, sir, to what extent it is important to explain the methodology to students as we are teaching IA?
Thank you for the question, sir. It is a good question indeed. See, what happens is that now when we ask the student to start internal assessment data collection, they are on their own. We are there to supervise them, which they will execute. So we have to, while teaching them, while training them, when we are teaching them Unit 6, test measurement and evaluation research methods. So what happens is that there are multiple tests in our syllabus, which is candidate is supposed to know. So for example, beep test. We can take the students to beep test. They can on their own take a list of apparatus required. After doing some research, they will get to know that what is required to conduct the whole test. How is it supposed to be conducted also can be learned by students, and they should execute it. They should ask some match practice. For example, let's say basketball, 20 students in evening, the whole team will come and conduct beep test. Now this will help in two dimensions. Candidates or students of sports science will get to learn how data collection is done. They will get first hand experience of that. Second thing is that uh, it can be said that we are just giving some good data to basketball coach also for his reference. Now what happens here is that when candidates are doing it firsthand, they get to know what is done and how is it done, and that is what allows them to introspect and think about what were independent variables, what are dependent variables of my experiment, what were the things which we controlled during the experiment, what were the things which we were unable to control or which are confounding for our experiment, and then how was this executed. In nutshell, this is the methodology part of the IA. So if we let them learn while teaching, I believe that they'll be able to execute it by themselves.
Sir, I have two questions.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, please, sir, please.
Yeah, one question is, what about the secondary data? Can we do a secondary data IA?
Yes.
And what sort of
Yes.
websites can be used?
Very good question, sir. You have touched a point which I have not touched yet. See, secondary data can be accessed. IB does not stop or restricts any candidate from accessing secondary data for doing IE. Now, things change a little bit there. What happens is that, for example, a student is accessing FIFA data. Now, as you said, first thing is that what type of websites can be accessed. I will recommend all official federation websites can be accessed, IOC website can be accessed, because these are the most reliable federations and reliable data sources. They have data for decades of years. Now, when the candidate is using data from there, keep in mind that she is not doing any data collection. Okay, so they should in detail write why are they selecting this particular database and why are they rejecting other databases. That should be specified in detail by the candidate. Why this database only? Why secondary data only? So that is something which will come into background information also. That is something which will come into methodology as well. The candidate should very clearly communicate to the examiner in the report that these are the reasons I'm referring a secondary database, and in particular this database and rejecting others because of these reasons. When we move on to safety, ethics, and environmental impact in secondary data research IA, candidate should write. See, there is nothing which candidate is able to do here because it's a secondary database, but they should write, for example, safety. And if the data is of footballers, so they should write that all the data collection has happened during FIFA regulated and supervised matches. Now, they should also write that FIFA governing rules were followed during data collection. The law book was followed. It was governed by referees. So these details should be mentioned. Ethics, anonymity of the data has been mentioned here or has been maintained here. The candidate is not relieving any athlete's name that with the data and raw data, and there may not be any environmental impact. So for that, the candidate should address that there was no environmental impact during data collection. And all these informations, I'm just trying to communicate that these informations of safety, ethics, and environment are available on all these official websites of be it FIFA, be it FINA, be it IOC, or any other federation for that sake. Sir, have I answered the question?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, is it clear for you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Fine, fine. Do we have any other question?
As of now, no, sir. We can go with the next.
I have one question. So I have one
Yes,
question.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Just one last question, sir. Like you had said, we start with Unit 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like you specified that we start with Unit 6.
Yes.
the whole syllabus. So is there a particular format in which we should follow the sequence of units? I mean, the subject guide will give us in a sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But like
Yes,
you
yes.
said, specifically we should start with year 6.
Yes, yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes, yes. See, as far as sequence is concerned, when I say that we should start with unit 6, this I have learned from my experience. When I started teaching in my year 1, I started teaching from unit 1, and I later realized that I ended up teaching them partially all research method and everything. And I landed on unit 6 later in year 2. So then I realized that I should teach unit 6 first. When we teach them unit 6, it creates ground for any research to be conducted. It enhances their understanding about research method. It also helps us to retain students in the subject. In schools, it's a big problem. A student may get monotonous in the beginning of the subject and may change the subject, which I don't want my students to do. So when I take them to labs in the sense when I take them to data collection again and again in multiple classes, when I take them out on field to do data collection and do some small pilot studies, it entertains them, and at the same time learning happens. Now as far as sequence is concerned, unit 6, then I go back to unit 1, which is anatomy. So moving on from anatomy to physiology is sequential. Moving on from physiology to energy systems is also sequential. And then biomechanics, psychology, sports psychology can be taught later. So this is one very vague sequence to be followed. There is another sequence which has been designed over a period of time, where we teach unit 6 first, then we go to normal cell and move on from there. So when it comes to systems, we teach all systems simultaneously, one by one. For example, skeletal system, the muscular system, and then go to physiological systems. So that is something where we have to move from one topic to another topic in bits and pieces. But I'll recommend that starting with unit 6, partial of unit 6, and then moving on to first to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 will be very much supportive in executing the whole syllabus properly.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Balaji, sir, do we have any other question?
As of now, there's nothing, sir. You can go ahead with the second criterion, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions and patience. Let's move on. We will move on to the next criteria, which is analysis. As you can see, the first aspect of analysis is raw data. Now, when it comes to, see, the student has already done few things by now. Student has come to a research question. Student has developed a methodology to collect data. Student has already done background research and landed up on a research question, then done some preparation of methodology, and has also considered ethics and safety of the subject who will be involved in the study. Now is the time of data collection, and we believe that data collection has been done. So when it comes to mention the data in the report, this is how ideally it should look like. Now, if you all are able to read it, you can see that the table has been named. What type of data is it having is also mentioned. Error of measurement is also mentioned by the candidate. Candidate has named participant 1 to 10. See, this is where ethics is visible. Anonymity of the data. He or she is not revealing name of the candidate here. And then raw data which has been collected is mentioned here. Now, I want you to know that raw data has also having two aspects. One is quantitative data, which is numerical data. So these are numerical data collected by the candidate. The other part of raw data is qualitative data, observations made during data collection. IB expects candidate to be very, very specific when it comes to raw data. Candidate is, when it comes to marking, candidate is marked on both criteria. In aspect 1, raw data, if there is qualitative data mentioned, then only candidate will be able to gain full marks. Otherwise, it leads to negative marking. Now, what are qualitative observations? Qualitative observations can be very simple. If there are 10 subjects who are part of the study and their data has been collected, their behavior during the data collection, if they were feeling uneasy, if they were comfortable, it was too low energy expenditure for them, or it was too tiring for them, Was it irritating for them? Was everyone in proper attire or not? So candidate can also have a list of participant 1 to 10 in detail and write their observations, write his observations about these samples who were part of the study. Now, it is very difficult to conduct data collection and observe everything in one go. It is also advised that a video recording can be done while doing data collection, which can be referred again and time to time by the student who is doing data collection to see and ensure that there is nothing missed out as far as observations is concerned, or if there was any mistake. So this is how a table of raw data looks like. See, candidate has mentioned things in detail here. Measurement units, measurement errors are mentioned here by the candidate. Trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, pre-activity blood pressure, post-activity blood pressure. Okay, and then when we look at the qualitative data, the candidate is discussing about initially how was the experiment, what observations were made by the candidate. So this is second part of the raw data. Raw data has two parts. One is quantitative, which is numerical data. The other one is qualitative data, observations made during data collection. So we will now go back to the presentation and we will see the next aspect is process data. And I will take you to the sample again to show process data. See, now what type of data processing will be done depends on what research question the candidate has taken. For example, let's go to this research question for reference. I'm scrolling it fast. This is the research question. Please read it. Okay, so there is pre-data to be compared with post-data, and there is some physical activity in between, which is swimming. Okay, so there are two sets of data, and the candidate wants to compare whether there is any significant difference or not. And what has the candidate done here? Candidate has collected 3 sets of data. 3 trials have been done to increase reliability of the data, accuracy of the data, and the statistical procedure here applied by the candidate is t-test. Now, there are few things which are expected. A candidate should calculate mean of the data for sure. Mean cannot be ignored. Average of the data should be calculated. Standard deviation should be calculated. I'll tell why. Be it any correlational study, be it any type of study, standard deviation and mean should be calculated. Moving on, depending on nature of study, t-test, ANOVA, if there are 2 groups, 2 means to be compared, t-test. If there are more than 2 means, ANOVA can be applied. And if it's a correlation based study, simple correlation can be calculated. Now, I want all facilitators to understand that we need to tell students that do not opt for a complex question, do not opt for a complex method of data collection or complex statistical procedure, because a high school student is expected to know t-test in their mathematics course as well. And students can use any software to do these calculations. They are not bound to learn how to do this test, and or they're not expected to memorize the data, the procedure of data calculation or all these things. So the student can use any software, input the data and do calculations. Excel can be used, softwares can be used, and learning of the whole procedure is not very mandatory here. Now, what is also expected here is that a student should show sample calculations. When we say sample calculations, I'll take you to the other IA. The student is expected to show working of the calculation as much as possible. So for that, I'll take another example. Yeah, this is the example which was not explored yet. So when I say working of the calculation to be shared, students should share. For example, standard deviation has been applied. So formula should be there, and why he or she is applying standard deviation. T-test is applied, so at least the image of the formula should be there. And small calculations can also be shared. Images, if it has been calculated on a software, image can be copy pasted here to make the examiner understand that student has understanding about calculation of the raw data, processed data. So this is one aspect, aspect of data processing, that processing should be shared, and not very complex statistical procedure should be advised to student. It should be as simple as possible, which can be done by a high school student. Okay, moving on from here, when it comes to write the, see, this is also calculations, sample calculation shared by the candidate here in the report. Mean and standard deviation has been calculated. Okay, so when the candidate has calculated mean, standard deviation, and has applied t-test if applicable, then comes the other part of process data, which is presentation of process data. Now, please have a look on this graph. This graph has two means. This graph has two error bars as well. Error bars are standard deviation of the mean. This graph has two axes, which have been labeled properly. This graph has a number and it has been detailed that this is content of the graph. Okay, I'll also show you some other graphs of other examples which we have been referring till now. Now look at this graph. Here the candidate is also mentioning error in the label. This is how it should be communicated in label of axis. You can also see that it has been labeled. The graph also has a number, for example, graph 2, and it also says what has been represented in the graph, and standard deviation is shown on top of the bar on both bars. So presentation of data is also very important, and suitable graph should be opted by the candidate. If the graph opted by the candidate is not the best suitable graph, it may lead to negative marking. So as far as process data is concerned, it has calculation of mean, standard deviation, and any other statistical procedure, inferential statistical procedure, which has to be applied. And then after that, results should be written properly. Results should be communicated properly. For example, see, the t-table has been made by the candidate here, showing the degree of freedom, p-value, and results of the test. And candidate is also expected to present it properly. So this is how we look at the process data aspect. Moving on from process data, let's talk about uncertainty. Now, uncertainty is something which is marked throughout the IA. It is not something which is marked at only one place. See, for example, if the candidate is not mentioning error of data collection, it will be marked negative for uncertainty. So candidate, as educators, we need to educate our students that no measurement is perfect measurement. There is always a scope of error in measurement. It can be manual error, it can be mechanical error. For example, we need to educate our students that when we are collecting timings from stopwatch also, then also there is a delay of reaction time. There is a mechanical error of the stopwatch as well. Stopwatch is not 100% accurate. So those errors should be considered while doing data collection and should be mentioned with data tables as well. Error should and uncertainty should be shown here in the presentation of data also in form of bar graphs. Standard deviation should be calculated and represented, and axis of the graphs should also be labeled properly. This is how uncertainty is marked. Uncertainty means the candidate is educated about that there is an error when he or she is doing data collection, and they're mentioning it in forms of error of data collection, which is like plus minus 5 meters when it is about 12 minutes run walk test data, or 9 minutes run walk test data, and other things as well. For example, if someone is measuring heart rate, so the sensor may have fluctuation or error of plus minus 1 beat per minute. So that should be mentioned there, and standard deviation should be represented in bar graph. So this is how uncertainty is looked at. Next aspect is the fourth aspect here is the interpretation aspect. For interpretation, I'll again take you all to the data part. When the data processing has been done, presentation of raw data, data processing has been done. When we go to when we go to interpretation, the candidate is expected to write description and interpretation of all graphs and statistical procedures. For example, here the candidate is trying to write a description of graph 3.1 in page number 9 at the bottom and the top. Here, how t-test data is interpreted is also written by the candidate. I'll take you to another example. Here the candidate is writing about t-value under the t-table and interpreting the calculations. So in interpretation, a small analysis should be conducted by the student and should write the interpretation of the data. And it is to be ensured by the facilitator that interpretation is correct. So a facilitator can guide also that data has to be interpreted properly. It should be valid interpretation. It should be not an invalid interpretation. It should be relevant to the research question. And while making interpretations and writing interpretations, the candidate should always take support of numbers, the data which has been processed. And after tables, after graph, after all processed data, small interpretation should be made in breaks so that this leads to the conclusion. So when the processed data has been interpreted properly by the candidate, it completes the analysis part. So these are 4 aspects of analysis part: raw data, processed data, uncertainty, and interpretations. If we'll pause for a while, and if there are any questions, please let me know so I could answer them. Hello, Mr. Balaji.
Yes, sir. As of now,
Okay.
there's no question, sir.
No questions. This is sad. Please,
So I have a
participants, if you have,
sir, I
please
have
do.
a question from my end. So how is uncertainty communicated throughout the IA, sir? So when we are teaching IA to a student,
Yes, sir.
and how this uncertainty, this part over here, uncertainty, as we are mentioning, you know, it has to be
Yes, sir.
communicated throughout the IA, and the report should be, you know, evidence stating that this uncertainty is prevailing over a period of 14 pages. And how can we communicate this to the children, and when we are teaching IA to them?
So when we are educating students about measurement of anything, we need to tell them ideally that there is no measurement which can be 100% perfect or accurate 100%. So it means that there is error in everything. If 5 people stand together and take data of a 100-meter sprint, there will be more than 2 variations within 5 people of that timing. For example, someone may come up with 13.5 seconds. Someone may say that it was 13.8 seconds or so. So when we see that if different people are standing and doing this data collection, there is variation. If one person will also do data collection for 20 people, there will be errors in doing collection of data. These errors can be of 2 types. One is manual error, which happens because of the individual who is doing data collection, his mistakes or his inability. And second thing is the mechanical error. For example, we are using a heart rate sensor. Heart rate sensor is inbuilt having an error of 1 beats per minute. So that is mechanical errors are mostly written with description of the apparatus. So this is how we need to teach them since beginning that no measurement is perfect, and we also should always consider errors and in data collection or uncertainties into consideration. And while writing reports, wherever we are reporting anything, for example, any number is there, so the student should pay attention that whether this number needs any SI unit to be associated with, unit should be there. And when unit of measurement is mentioned, it means there is some measurement. And when there is a measurement, there will be an error. So error should be mentioned along with it. This is how it should be communicated throughout the data. So even in conclusion and evaluation also, student should, if wants to write, should write error of measurement along with unit and the data. So that reflects very well on the report.
Another question.
Yes, sir.
There is another question. So it's like,
yes, sir, please.
Does student know how to to do the analysis of the data statistics, for example, t-test, degree of confidence, significance value, etc. How to do the analysis?
Sure, sir. See,
Question from Mr. GS.
Sure, sir, sure. What I'm saying is, sir, here that a student is not expected to learn t-test. In their syllabus, they have mean, standard deviation, and correlation. So comparison of means on any scale is not supposed to be learned by the student, and that's where role of the teacher comes into picture. If a student is applying t-test and student is applying t-test, teacher is expected to help out the student in doing data interpretation, degree of freedom, level of significance, or anything. So if the teacher is there with the candidate, it will be facilitated to the candidate in these forms, interpretation of the data. So therefore, I'm saying that complex statistical procedure should not be opted. Max to max, a candidate can apply t-test, or t-test is very general, correlation is very general. If there are more than 2 means, then NO can be applied, but not beyond that. Nothing beyond that should be advised to the candidate. And when I'm saying advice to the candidate, if the candidate is not following instructions of the teacher, it should be definitely reported to the diploma coordinator that the candidate is applying too complex statistical procedure, which he may not be able to interpret or handle properly. So that is something which needs to be communicated very strongly to the candidate, and teacher can help it out. So please, sir, have I made it clear to sir?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. So are there any other questions?
No, sir. As of now, nothing, sir. You can go with the next.
Okay. Let's move on to the next criteria, which is conclusion and evaluation. So this also has 4 aspects. The first one is conclusion and evaluation. See, now so far you have understood that you have seen that a candidate is supposed to build up a question. A question is supposed to having a background information, support of review of related literature. Then methodology is designed by the candidate. Raw data collection is done. It is presented. Processing of data is done. It is interpreted also. Now, when we come to conclusion, in conclusion, the candidate is supposed to come to conclusion with help of data. When the conclusion is written, the candidate is expected to outline the relevant data to research question. It should be related to the research question with help of data. For example, if candidate says that there is no significant difference between pre and post data. Now, on what grounds is the candidate communicating this should be mentioned very properly. So he or she should take reference of the data when they are saying that there is no difference between pre and post data. When they say that there is difference between pre and post data, then they should also again state the data there, that because of these things we are able to conclude that there is difference between 2 readings, pre and post data. So that's beginning of the conclusion. Second thing is that if the candidate has created a hypothesis and has stated in beginning of the report, discussion of hypothesis can also be done here and should be done here basically. And whether the hypothesis has been accepted or has not been accepted should be written in bold. I will show you an example here where the candidate has written a very wonderful conclusion in the study. Yes, so see, what has the candidate done? She has written the conclusion, she has come to a conclusion and she has highlighted important things. And she has also discussed her hypothesis here, that the hypothesis has been accepted or rejected or not accepted. First thing is support of data, which is very much required. So when one is drawing the conclusion, data should be mentioned time and again. Without support of data, without mentioning data, no conclusion is valid conclusion. It will be negatively marked by the examiner. So there should be support of data. There should be a discussion of hypothesis. Moving on, you can see that there are few things at the page number 11 on the top. There is review of a study. There are 3 studies reviewed by the candidate here. Now the candidate has concluded. No, we'll come to that part later. So conclusion is this much only, that conclusion has to be drawn on basis of the process data outcomes with reference of data. Discussion of hypothesis should be done. and data should be taken as support to the conclusion. So this is conclusion part. I will go to the next aspect. Moving on from conclusion, it is scientific research, and that's where I was pointing out the studies which have been highlighted by the candidate. Now these are 3 research reviews which have been mentioned by the candidate here. These reviews are supporting her findings. The candidate has done background research, come up with a research question, has done the whole experiment, data collection, processing of data, and has come to a conclusion. She has again gone to Google and other resources. Google in the sense other resources from wherever she could get a review of related literature, which can be any periodical, any research journal like Research Quarterly or anything. In India now we have wonderful resources like Shodh Ganga, and there are different universities which are sharing their studies done by students in their universities, and has found 3 studies which are supporting her findings here in this particular research experiment. So she has mentioned these 3 in bit of detail, which is very brief. She is writing who had conducted the study, what was research question of the study, and what were outcomes. And outcomes of her study and these 3 studies are similar. So she is validating her findings with help of support of these 3 researchers which have been conducted by different people in different parts. Now it can be a global reference, as we all know that it can be globally. Someone has done a study in the US can also be referred here. Next thing is strength and weakness. To all educators who are already in IB education, reflection, they all know that, and they all know that reflection is very important aspect in our education system. So when the candidate has done the whole experiment, has concluded the study, now they are supposed to sit in peace and reflect on what has happened in past few weeks. Data collection was done, designing of methodology was done, some background research was done. So there must be some strength and weaknesses which a candidate may be able to identify after completing the whole process. So this is the reflection part. The candidate is expected to do reflect on what has been conducted or done by him or her, and write and bring out as much as possible. For example, if there were some strong points he or she feels that were strength of the IA, were strength of the experiment. For example, if there was a study conducted which was experimental in nature, and candidate managed to have a control group, so that will become very strong methodological strength for her IA. So he or she can write that thing. So it is expected that candidate writes strengths. Candidate also identifies weaknesses which were of the part of the study. For example, a very normal weakness which is usually identified is number of subjects in the study was very short, or if there was a huge error in doing data collection, or there were some limitations. So whatever has been identified by the candidate should be written in the strength and weakness part. See here, candidate has written limitations, significance of the limitation, and suggested improvement. Now improvement is part of the next aspect. We will focus on this limitation part. And she has also written strength in the paragraph above this. She has written strength, she has tabulated limitations here, which are 4. Error of equipment, number of participants, emotionally instability, gender, and researcher bias. So these are weaknesses which she identified during the process. She has also written improvement about it. So strength and improvement should be mentioned by the candidate in the report. So when the candidate has reported strengths and weaknesses, he or she has identified them, then they should move on to improvement and extension. Now, as I was showing you that candidate has written limitations and has suggested improvements also. So improvements on grounds of the limitations which have been identified. Given a chance to improve something in the same experiment, what will you do? So I will like to reduce all these limitations and make it as perfect as possible, and the whole experiment will become as strong as possible. So improvements are advised. For example, error of equipment. The candidate may advise that by next time we should have high-end sophisticated equipment which has very minute, very less mentioned error in it. Or number of participants can be increased. Emotional stability means this is a confounding variable which can be taken care of with very great difficulties. What has the candidate written here is that use of counseling can help participants to overcome their emotions and be very be very focused about data collection. Gender can be changed. Researcher bias can be reduced as much as possible. So this is how the candidate has notified improvements on basis of the limitations which were identified prior. Next thing is extension. I'll show you an example. So what happens here is that if a candidate wish to say that if someone is referring this research and would like to conduct something like that, or maybe the candidate him herself is willing to do some research in future on basis of this, he or she would like to extend the study in this particular format. So they have to write what would they like to design and execute. They have to write a bit detail of it, and it will be very wonderful if they could write a simple research question there, that this will be my prospective research question in future if I'll be extending this study further. So this candidate has written extension very well here, and the main report ends here before bibliography. I'll take you people to the presentation. And if you people have any questions, please do let me know about conclusion and evaluation. Hello, Mr. Balaji.
I think, sir, the conclusion and evaluation was explained really well. I don't think any of us really have doubts there.
Okay, ma'am. So if we don't have any questions, I just want to share one experience here. That see, when you will go to the guide, you will see that these three criteria: exploration, analysis, and conclusion and evaluation are of 75% weightage. Each of them carries 25% weightage. So conclusion and evaluation is the criteria where maximum candidates fail to express themselves. They design very wonderful experiments. They design very good experiments. They execute them very well. They do very good analysis part. But when it comes to conclude, to write strength and weakness, and to write extension and improvements, candidates lack here, and this is the least scoring component of the whole IA.
Sir, there is one question from Sagadeb. He's asking about the core difference between conclusion and evaluation.
Okay. So the core difference between conclusion and evaluation is that conclusion is on basis of what we have got in front of us. For example, the data says that there is significant difference between pre-data and post-data, which allows us to accept or reject our hypothesis. Till that part is conclusion with support of data. Moving on to evaluation. Evaluation means what we have done was strong and weak on multiple dimensions. So we sit and reflect. From there, evaluation starts. We sit and reflect. We identify strengths. We identify weaknesses. Then we move on. Now we have strength. We will keep them with the IA. We have some weaknesses. We will try to overcome them next time. So we will write improvements on basis of these weaknesses. Third stage of this evaluation is that we will write a plan of extension as well. So if given a chance to conduct the study again, I would like to extend it to this level. So conclusion is very beginning of it. Discussion of hypothesis on basis of data gained with support of scientific research. Okay, and next other two parts like identification of strength, weakness, and advising improvements and extension is evaluation part. So there are 4 aspects. 2 of them are for conclusion. 2 of them are for evaluation. Mr. Sagar, have I made it clear, sir, for you?
Sir, thank you.
Welcome, sir. Sir Balaji, sir, we have any other question?
No, sir, no other questions. You can go ahead, sir.
Okay, so we will move on to the next criteria, which is communication. Now, we can see that there are 4 things written here. One is presentation. First thing which I want you to know here is that presentation is something like the whole report in one go. How does it looks like? For example, there are 12 pages the report is supposed to be written in. Is it readable properly? Are there page numbers on each pages? Graphs and diagrams are clear. Raw data is readable. If there any ambiguity in reading or looking at the report, so that is how it is marked. This is of 4 marks. So 1 mark stands for each aspect here basically. Well, we do not. It's a clarification that we do not average out marks. I'm just saying that this is how I divide it. IB doesn't say so. IB says that whole communication is of 4 marks. It depends on the examiner how do they wish to mark it. So first aspect is presentation. Presentation is one go if the examiner is scrolling the whole study and finds that everything is clear and reading out. And see, therefore, communication is marked at the end. When any examiner starts marking, they start marking it from exploration first. Exploration, analysis, conclusion, evaluation. Then they look at the communication criteria. So whether the study is presentable or not in a nutshell, the whole study, then it is marked. Next thing is structure of report. So there is as ma'am was asking in the beginning, is there any structure of report? Yes, there is a logical structure of report of any scientific investigation to be reported in, which is like, if I have to say, it starts with the research question, then background information, then methodology, raw data, process data, graphs, conclusion evaluations, support of scientific research, strength, weakness, improvements, then bibliography should be there. I'll show you an example how wonderfully these students have written bibliographies. Look at this. It's in alphabetical order. Very well communicated here. Bibliography. Look at this bibliography. And this is the appendix where the candidate has attached PARQ and consent form, physical activity readiness questionnaire and consent form. And these are marks given by the teacher. So this is how the logical structure of report is. Starting with the research question, hypothesis, background information. So this aspect of structure of report is marked on this. See, it does happen. I have seen studies where, while marking that a candidate has written conclusion before doing analysis of the data, maybe by mistake, but this is how they have written it. So if it is in that way, which means that the candidate is not aware of the logical sequence. So therefore, the structure of report will be marked negative there. If a candidate puts the process data table before raw data table, or keeps the graphs before raw data, presents graphs before presenting raw data, if anything is in haphazard way of the logical sequence, then it will be marked negatively. Otherwise, it's a fundamental logical sequence which we all follow for all scientific research papers. Third thing is, or the third aspect is conciseness. I'll show you in the presentation, then we will come to example. Conciseness. How concise is the report? Whether the report has attached PARQ or not, whether the report is able to communicate everything or not, whether there is a 12-page limit for these IAs. It is not that after 12-page examiner will not mark them. It will be marked if relevant things are written. Otherwise, an examiner usually reports it that it's beyond 12 pages. But if sensible things are written, they do read it and mark, and it is not negatively marked then. And this is how conciseness is evaluated. And next thing is terminology and conventions. So when it comes to terminology and conventions, see, for example, if the candidate is not aware about the terms which are used in the subject, for example, while writing formula for t-test, formula has been written wrongly. When calculating or some SI unit has been written wrongly, the terms which are standard and used in the subject or report, for example, let's say methodology, if candidate is not reusing this particular term, and the whole report should be written in passive method, because it is something which is done and then written. So the methodology should be written in passive voice. This is how it was done. This is how it was done. There should be no personal pronouns. Candidate is not expected to write that I did this, I did that. It should be written in a way that candidate did data collection, candidate executed these things. So this is how we mark or we look at terminology and conventions. So communication is the criteria which is marked throughout the research, and very minute observations are made. If page numbers are missing, it can be reported by the examiner that no page numbers are written. So basically, if there is any hindrance of communication between the what has been done and between the examiner, then examiner will have to report it and mark it negatively. So this is how communication is looked at. So when we are facilitating communication criteria to our students, we need to tell them that precision is something which should be ensured, and we have to guide them from time to time. When we give them multiple feedbacks, we need to tell them that this is where you are lagging in communication criteria, you should improve this. So if feedback has been given by the teacher, it is more than enough. So this is how communication is reported, or communication is taken care in the IA. Please do ask if you have any questions.
Karan sir, there is no questions as of now. You can go ahead with the.
We don't have any questions. Okay, no worries. I believe that I just hope that everyone is understanding everything clearly. So there are 4 aspects in communication. Now, one of the most important aspect is personal engagement, which has this is the criteria called personal engagement, which has 3 aspects. One is independent thinking, second one is justification of research question, third thing is initiative. Now I will not change the slide, I'll just take it from here itself. See, what happens is that when the candidate is looking for related background information, this is something which is marked overall. And student is also expected to write a small paragraph about personal engagement when it comes to justification of research question. So we'll start with independent thinking. Looking at the research question, looking at the background research done by the candidate, examiner gets to know that how independently is the candidate thinking, how exceptional is the research topic in nutshell. So if the candidate is conducting a research which is not done by everyone, for example, if a candidate is doing a mechanical analysis of golf swing, then it is an exceptional study. So that type of study can be marked high in independent thinking. That candidate is not taking very simple study, simple in the sense, it's just independent thinking of the candidate. It is not always expected to be very complex study. So that is reflected in the research question and the background information. Justification of the research question, you may get students who are soccer player, track and field athletes, and they will end up having their research question in their area of interest. So they will be writing their justification of coming to this particular research question. So you may have a student who is facing some problem in his practice, and has observed something in the sport and may come up with a research question. So student is expected to write justification of research question in the report. And third thing is initiative. When it comes to initiative is evident how much data has been collected, whether the whole time of experiment is supposed to be within 10 hours. IA should be executed by the candidate within 10 hours, planning till execution. Now, if the candidate has done good amount of data collection, they will take time of beyond 8 to 9 hours or so. So it is very much evident by the looking at raw data and data processing, whether the candidate has taken that initiative or not. By looking at subjective observation, the qualitative observation mentioned by the candidate. So the teacher is able to understand whether the candidate has dedicated enough time and taken that initiative or not. I will show you an example in the study where student has written about personal engagement in a paragraph stating interest in this particular question. See, this introduction part is personal engagement part here. The student has very well written that how did he or she came to this particular topic. when the topic of cardiorespiratory exercise physiology was taught. So they have to justify how do they have come to this particular research question. So that is justification of research question.
So this justification should be in which part of the IA?
Ma'am, I advise my students to write it in very beginning, after writing introduction or before writing introduction.
Okay,
also.
similar to a personal project. Yeah. Okay, like we do it in the personal project in MIP 5. I think
Yes,
it's similar.
yes. So personal engagement is supposed to be mentioned there.
Karan sir,
Just to,
just
yes,
connecting
ma'am.
the entire thing as in I'm connecting it to the personal project because it's almost the same like this. Is it am I going the right way, or it's just that
See,
there
ma'am,
are
IAs, there are similarities. Yes, there are similarities. But what happens is that when a candidate does a personal project in MYP, they have all subjects. When they do IA in sciences and diploma program, they have to follow the scientific procedures. That's all.
Sir, adding to this point,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fiona, a personal project is of like what the interest of the child, and it doesn't have any kind of boundaries, and he can do all this work through his interest to whatever extent what he needs. But in IA, it is all about the experimental study, and it has to be what subjective towards the subject guide and the core topics what we have to elect on and go according to the specification given by the IB subject guide.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, Balaji, sir.
Yeah,
that,
I
do
think
that.
personal project becomes more like an IDU. Personal project is more like an IDU. It is a
Exactly,
collaborative
Nina
study
ma'am.
of all the subjects.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly, Nina.
Yeah, but whereas IA is more scientific based. Yeah, we base it on science project.
Yes. So please do let me know if there are any more questions.
Sir, I have a question on this personal engagement only, which is like, so whenever I was, as of now, I'm preparing for my second year children. So
Yes,
I
sir.
was thinking to get down a format of how the guiding questions has to be made, or how can we expect the children to write down everything. So at that point of a time, I was stuck with something like how do we communicate personal engagement to help the candidate to write the report, in an examiner's perspective, as you said, as IA is connected with three individuals. It is between the student, the teacher, and as well as the examiner, and all three have the collaboration without even connecting to each. At this point of a time, as a teacher, I am teaching the children. I do want to communicate the personal engagement throughout the report, and it has to be correctly communicated to the examiner point of view. At this point, how can I do it, sir? Can you please?
Sure, sir. See, sir, there are three aspects in communication. One is independent thinking. Second is justification to the research question. And third is, see, when it comes to independent thinking, that is something which will be judged by the examiner or teacher only, whether the candidate is thinking independently or not. See, for example, if you will have 10 students, you will find very limited lot out of 10 who are able to think independently and come up with their own research questions or topics to which they would like to investigate. That this is how it differentiates between independent thinkers. So independent thinking will reflect in the research question. So this is something which, for independent thinking, you may advise the candidate, you may give a feedback that the research question or topic you are taking is very general. You may change it or modify it to in this way, and this will become more interesting or more impactful. Is this fine, sir? Independent thinking aspect? Hello, Balaji, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Moving on to research question justification. Now, this is something which the candidate will have to write and communicate. So how, see, for example, I've been marking IAS since past 3-4 years. So what happens is that students write different type of justifications. They come up with justifications like my whole family is sports oriented family. My father has been a soccer player. I am a soccer player, and now I am experiencing this problem, or I want to explore this thing because of my personal interest. I am a striker, so I would like to see how speed impacts accuracy of shooting, or how tiredness or fatigue impacts accuracy of shooting. So if the candidate is trying to justify within the words his or her justification to come to this particular research question, uh, this is how it is done. So it is supposed to be written and communicated. The candidate will have to write a heading in IA called personal engagement, and should write that why or how is this research question justified. This can also be mentioned in background information. For example, curiosity. VO2 max experimentation was shown to the candidate, and candidate had no idea about this aspect of an individual before that. Now, looking at the VO2 max experimentation, candidate got very excited about this thing, and did some in-depth study and came up with this research question that I want to conduct my IE on VO2 max. Now, that is also a justification by the candidate. So this is how a candidate is expected to write and communicate this thing. Third thing is initiative. Third aspect is initiative. So initiative is something which cannot be written by the candidate. Initiative is something which will be evident in the report. Examiner will have to look into it by their experience. For example, as I was saying that how much amount of data has been conducted. See, I will show you a study here again. Now look at this study on the top. Read the title of the study: comparison of selected health related physical fitness components between trained and untrained students. Now this candidate has done tremendous job by comparing. This first is cardiovascular 9-minute Cooper's run walk test. Okay, data collection of 10 people, comparison of 10 people. Moving on, sit and reach test for flexibility, 10 people data collection, comparison of data. Moving on, muscular endurance flexed arm hang test, 10 people data collection and comparison, all trained athletes or athletes and non-athletes. Muscular endurance hand grip dynamometer. Now, if you'll get to see an IA like this, you will be very easily and happily marking this IA positive on aspect of initiative, whether the candidate has taken initiative or not. And if there is a study where the candidate has only done some data collection and has concluded the study, not much of data collection is done, and the teacher or the examiner thinks that not good time has been spent by the candidate in doing this whole exercise, then it is evident by the report. So this is how personal engagement is addressed, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Okay, so do we have any other question about this? Any criteria so far?
No, sir. As of now, nothing, sir.
Okay, so see, all of you, I would like to communicate few things here. First thing, thank you very much for being part of this session and having patience. You know, I had very bad start in the beginning because of this disconnectivity of internet.
Sir, there is a question right now, sir.
Yes, sir, please ask, please ask.
So there's Mr. Ashwini Yadav who's asking a question.
Yes, sir.
Can we give any draft to the students?
Okay. Can you please repeat it, sir?
So he's asking that can we give any draft to the students so that they can give good quality of work. So he's asking like what, you know, whether we can give them some examples and
yes,
the students get to know.
We can very much. When in the beginning, when we facilitate learning of research methods to students in class, we have to show them journals online so that they understand what is expected from IB. We can show them past year students' work as well. If you have any, you can go to the IB, my IB login, go to diploma program resources, go to teacher support website. There are 10 exemplars of IAs. Take exemplars from there, share it with students. And this is a very healthy habit in diploma program and throughout IB, that we share exemplars with students. We share criteria with students in advance. We tell them in detail as much as possible, multiple times, what is expected from them. So if we are sharing an exemplar, it will enhance their understanding. and they will be able to come up with better work. So this is how, yes, perfectly, we can share drafts with them. But keep one thing in mind, that tell students to think independently. What happens is that, for example, if we are sharing 5 drafts, it should not happen that the similar type of study has been designed by a candidate. That is unethical on behalf of the candidate. The candidate needs to take his own idea into exercise. Take inspiration from somewhere is fine. Understand things from some draft is okay. But please, it should be communicated very well to students that they should come up with their own independent thinking about the design. So is this clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ashwani?
Yeah, he said thanks.
Okay, so do we have any other question? Any
No, sir.
question so far? Okay, so those who are teaching diploma or teaching any IB section, for example, PYP, MYP, or diploma program, it's my humble request, please talk to your coordinators, please request your head of schools to start this subject in your school. You need any type of support in terms of executing the subject, let me know. I'll be always available. Mr. Balaji will be always available for you, and we will try to help you out, and we will collaborate, we will share resources. All I want is to start this subject. Means if many schools will start offering this subject, it will take the subject to another level, and this is my inspiration of doing everything. So that is, I think, the least I can do for the profession. Please request your head of schools and your coordinators to start the subject. Be bold, take initiative. You'll have to do some hard work. Please start doing it. It will pay off in future. And as far as resources and other things are concerned, I'm there. I'm open to share everything which I have created in past 8 years experience. Please do let me know whenever you have any query.
Okay, sir, can we
that
connect
is
to you
there.
on the mail
Yes, ma'am.
for any resources? Can we connect to you on
Yes,
the
ma'am,
mail given,
please.
sir?
I
for
have
any
mentioned my
resources? Yeah, that's what the
yes,
mail.
yes. Please, you can text, you can WhatsApp me, you can write an email. Within 24 hours, I'll be responding to your query.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Ma'am, we have a WhatsApp group, especially.
Maximum within 24 hours.
So can you add me to the WhatsApp group, sir? Can I say I have added
And
my
I'll be
email
all
ID.
available. Yes, sir. So please continue.
Please message Mr. Karan in the given number. So he will share you the WhatsApp group invite.
I have also shared my email ID on the chat right now, sir. So
yes,
you can
ma'am.
also.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you
okay,
can
ma'am.
do
We'll do it. We'll do it.
I'll give you my, and then I'll mail you my number also, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine,
That
ma'am,
will be
fine.
feasible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so I think that we should conclude the session now. So should I conclude the session, Mr. Balaji?
If there are
Sir,
no doubts,
I also wanted to know about the TOK. There is also
Yes, ma'am.
TOK mentioned in the subject guide.
Yes, ma'am. TOK
So-
is core component, CAS is core component, and extended essay is core component. So any candidate who is opting for diploma, complete diploma program, they are expected to do their TOK classes. They're expected to have to write an extended essay in any subject, and they're expected to finish their CAS program. So these are core components, and TOK is integral part of everything. CAS is integral part of everything, every subject taught. So there are
Right,
TOK
sir.
links in sports science also. There are CAS links in sports science also. So these are all collaborated and integrated parts. Yes, ma'am. Please
So
ask
you can
about.
help us out with the
Yes, ma'am. Very much. Very much. Very
also,
much.
sir?
Yes.
Help
I
us with the
teach TOK. I facilitate
Okay.
TOK learning in my school. So I'll be
So if you
confident
could
in
help me out
doing
with
that.
that, I'll connect to you on
Yes.
a personal. I'll connect to you personally, sir.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Perfect, ma'am. We can
Thank you.
collaborate. So, Balaji sir, should I conclude it?
yes, sir. If there is nothing, and Mr. GS has raised his hand. If he has any questions, he can ask.
Yes, Mr. GS.
Yes. So he has given the number. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, fine. Okay. So, sir, I'll now conclude this session. Yep.
So before that, I would just like to add some points. Like we are having another session on the Sunday. That's on
Yes, sir.
March. This is regarding to approaching planning, preparing, and processing MYP PHE, and also approaching the DP, and it will be facilitated, and we will be collaborating with three people. Will be collaborating. One is me, and the second one is Mr. Hani Bhatia, and will be all Mr. Karan Bahadur Singh also will be present. So I would wish all to join in that also. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, see, I'll say one more line beyond this, that Mr. Balaji has taken this initiative of planning and conducting the next session, which is on Sunday, to make us understand that how the subject graduates from MYP to diploma. What are expectations in diploma, and how can we longitudinally, align the curriculum in total. So now I'll conclude the session. I want to say thanks to few people here, Ms. Ashika Tenzing ma'am, for motivating us to conduct the session. Ms. Lenny Dutton to provide this wonderful platform to us to go ahead and conduct this session. Mrs. Balaji for all technical help she has provided me for this particular presentation and conducting the session. Mr. Balaji and Mr. Bhatia for regular collaboration and feedback, and Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary for observing this session. Thank you, everyone. Now I would disconnect the meeting. Mr. Balaji, you can disconnect the meeting now. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for participation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.